Imagine the heat pressing against your skin so thick it's hard to breathe. The smell of rot and river mud in the air. No music, no lights. Just a fragile settlement trapped between a violent river and endless swamp. In 1763, New Orleans wasn't famous, it was expendable. But what happened next would turn this forgotten outpost into one of the most powerful cities in the world. If you could step onto the crescent bend of the Mississippi River in the year 1763, the silence would surprise you first. No brass bands, no laughter spilling out of open doors, no glow of gas lamps or iron balconies framing the night. Instead, you would find yourself standing in a humid, uncertain frontier where the ground itself felt temporary and the future of an entire continent flowed past in muddy water. This was New Orleans before it became a legend, before it learned how to perform itself for the world. The city had just been passed from the French crown to the Spanish Empire, not with ceremony, but with paperwork signed oceans away. For the people living here, it felt less like a transfer of power and more like abandonment. The air was thick with rot and river mist. Cypress swamps pressed in from every direction, alive with insects and decay. Summer brought suffocating heat. Autumn brought storms. And every spring, the Mississippi reminded the city how easily it could erase it.in this video. I use modern AI tools to restore the sketches, maps, and faded illustrations left behind by those who lived through this era. These are not clean postcards of the past. They are rough impressions drawn by people trying to make sense of a place that refused to behave like Europe. With AI reconstruction, we don't just observe these images, we step inside them. The goal isn't to admire history from a distance. It's to inhabit it, to feel the damp heat cling to your clothes, to hear wagon wheels grinding through mud, to sense how provisional everything felt, as if the city might slide back into the swamp at any moment. Before the iconic balconies of the French Quarter ever existed, New Orleans was defined by mud and improvisation. By the late 1760s, under Spanish administration, the city began to harden its shape. This early colonial map shows the view car laid out as a strict grid, an attempt to impose order on a landscape that resisted it. Timber-framed houses crowded together, their steep roofs borrowed from northern France, perfect for snow, disastrous for Louisiana heat. The AI reconstruction strips away the abstraction of the map. Streets churned into thick sludge by rain and traffic. Narrow boardwalks made from cypress logs decayed almost as fast as they were built. The smell of wet wood, smoke, and refuse filled the air. And looming beside it all was the levee, a crude, constantly failing barrier holding back one of the most powerful rivers on earth. The city's heart was not a marketplace or a cathedral, but an open square, the Place d'Armes, now Jackson Square. In an 18th century sketch, it appears bare and exposed. Imagine standing there around 1780. Spanish soldiers drill under the sun, their uniforms stained with sweat. Nearby, enslaved men and women sell fruits, spices, and handmade goods brought through Caribbean trade networks. Voices overlap French, Spanish, Creole, African languages, blending into something entirely new. This was the moment when New Orleans began to look forward instead of merely endure. Brick buildings started to rise among the wood. Brick meant safety. Brick meant authority. Brick meant the city was betting on its own survival. Then fire came. In this historical engraving of the Great Fire of 1788, flames tear through the skyline. On Good Friday, a single spark fueled by wind and tightly packed wooden structures became an inferno. In a matter of hours, more than 800 buildings were destroyed. Churches collapsed. Homes vanished. Decades of memory turned to ash. Just 6 years later, another fire struck. But they also gave the city permission to reinvent itself. When rebuilding began, Spanish influence dominated. Thick brick walls replaced timber. Arched doorways slowed the spread of flames. Interior courtyards created islands of shade and airflow. The city turned inward, learning how to breathe in the heat. This transformation is visible in the architectural drawings of the late 1790s. The St. Louis Cathedral, the Cabildo. Solid, grounded structures meant to endure. Notice what isn't there yet. No elaborate iron balconies. In this era, balconies were simple and wooden. The city felt dense, almost enclosed, with the smell of lime mortar and baked clay lingering in the air as builders reshaped the skyline. Then, in 1803, the world shifted again. With the Louisiana Purchase, New Orleans was absorbed into the United States. In the famous painting of the transfer ceremony, flags change hands in the placed arms. But the image is misleading. Nothing else changed so cleanly. The language remained French. The laws remained Spanish. The culture remained defiantly Creole. The American officials were unsettled by what they found. Sundays filled with music, dancing, and gambling. A legal system rooted in Roman tradition. A city uninterested in becoming American on command. A dividing line soon emerged. Canal Street in early 19th century illustrations. Canal Street appears wide and unresolved. To the east lay the old Creole city, layered with colonial tradition. To the west, the American sector rose quickly. Brick warehouses, Greek Revival homes, English signage. The AI Reconstruction highlights the contrast. Two identities growing side by side, separated by more than just a street. The tension came to a head during the War of 1812. In this dramatic engraving of the Battle of New Orleans, chaos fills the fields at Chalmette Plantation. But the real fear lived inside the city. Imagine the anxiety in the French Quarter as Andrew Jackson's improvised army marched out to face the British. If the city fell, everything it had survived would be undone. The victory that followed changed New Orleans. Forever celebrations spilled into the streets. Bells rang. Cannons fired in triumph. For the first time, the city's fractured cultures shared a single moment of identity. New Orleans had defended itself and earned its place. What followed was an explosion of wealth. The 1820s, the riverfront had transformed. In sketches of the levee, steamboats crowd the shoreline, belching smoke. The sound was overwhelming. Steam whistles, shouting merchants, creaking cargo. Cotton flowed through the port in staggering volumes. New Orleans became the economic engine of the Mississippi Valley. The 1830s marked the city's peak and its deepest contradiction. In lithographs of the St. Charles Hotel, its massive dome dominates the skyline. When it opened in 1837, it symbolized unmatched luxury. Inside, the AI Reconstruction reveals gaslit ballrooms, marble floors, and extravagant gatherings. Just outside, another reality unfolded. Newspaper illustrations from the same decade show slave auctions held openly in the city. Imagine standing on a corner in 1835, luxury carriages passing by while human lives were sold steps away. New Orleans was beautiful, wealthy, and brutally complicit. By 1840, the city seemed unstoppable. Panoramic drawings show endless growth along the river. Canals, railroads, and warehouses promised a future without limits. But danger never left. Yellow fever returned each summer, killing thousands. In drawings of early cemeteries, we see above-ground tombs rising, a practical response to waterlogged soil. Even death had to adapt to the environment. When I look at these AI restored images of the levee at sunset, I wonder if the people who lived there sensed how temporary everything truly was. They built a civilization on unstable ground, under constant threat, yet they built it with style, defiance, and unmistakable soul. These streets are not just history. They are the blueprint of the modern crescent city. Thank you for walking through time with me. Let me know which city or which lost era you want to step into next time.